hard and you aiming for the seven figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI Tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors, all my entrepreneurs. Time for you to check this. Yoann, Dorat, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI Tribe, REI Tribe. Let's go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this new episode of the REI Tribe podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, my good friend Willy here, who's coming from Fort Lauderdale, not very far from here. So, Willy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. So, Willy, I think we met about like a year and a half ago, and I remember you were doing this meetup in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Great event. I met a lot of great people there, and yeah, you told me a little bit about your career in real estate. So I want to touch base a little bit on that. On the REI Tribe podcast, we talk about real estate, we talk about the market, what's working right now. But before we get to that, I like to talk about the entrepreneur and your journey. How did you end up in real estate and all? and yeah, how did you come up to this point today?
Yeah, so where I got started, really.
Yep.
Yeah, so I didn't plan it for sure. I was a corporate America guy. I went to school for finance. I went to Merrill Lynch at Wall Street. I was there for a little bit over a year, and then I got fired, and I moved back in with my mom.
What year was that?
That was in 2015, 16.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got started in real estate in 2017.
All right.
So, yeah, I moved back in with my mom. It sucked, obviously. It was not what I had expected. I wanted to be on Wall Street my whole life. That was my goal. That was my dream. I was trading oil there. Well, I was a junior trader, and whatever, it didn't work out. So I came back home, and honestly, I was so pissed about what happened because I felt like I had been working. I did everything right. I graduated top of my class. I did the internship. Everything by the book, and I got kind of spit out on the other side. So when I came back, I told my mom, I said, look, I'm never working for anybody ever again in my life. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm done with this shit. And my mom, I'm first generation Cuban American. So my mom was like, listen, that's great, but you better figure shit out because I didn't come to this country for you to be a bum. So, but I had a lot of people in my family that, I tried businesses. She had always owned businesses or had sales positions. So I appreciated the fact that she didn't shoot me down. She could have said, hey, why don't you just go get another job? Which I could have. I really could have. I was on Wall Street. I had a great resume. It would have been very easy for me to do that. And I was at a hedge fund, so it wouldn't have been hard. But I'm glad I didn't. And I bounced around. I actually had a friend at the time. He took me to a Tony Robbins event. And when I left the Tony Robbins event, I was very young, man. I was 24, 25, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life. So I actually got to speak to Tony Robbins for like a minute and a half. And he told me, don't worry about the how. If the why is big enough, the how will follow. And that's something that really stuck with me forever. And it's kind of been my mantra. And my why really has always been my mom being a single mom, my grandmother who's a single grandmother too. And, they both raised me, my older brother as well. So, I found real estate through a Sean Terry podcast, and the friend of mine who took me to the Tony Robbins event, he told me that he had a diabetic testing strip business, buying diabetic testing strips. So I found myself from Wall Street back living at home with my mom, putting out bandit signs at night that said we buy diabetic testing strips. So as you can imagine, it was a big mind fuck for me. And, I was sad. Some days it was not the plan. I felt like I had failed at everything. And all my friends, they were all finance guys. So they're like, what the hell are you doing? You're putting out these signs to buy diabetic testing strips. Like, no, like, what are you doing? Right. So that was very hard. And whatever, I heard the Sean Terry podcast. And the episode was a guy who had wholesaled in Miami. And I cold called him. And I literally told him on the phone, I lied to his secretary. I got through to him and I told him on the phone, I was like, listen, if you help me get started in real estate, I'll pay for all the marketing and I'll split my first 5 deals with you 50-50. And he said, yeah, sure, come in tomorrow. And we did. And 91 days later, we had 5 deals and we were off to the races.
That's an amazing story, man. So let's just like rewind a little bit. So
Yeah.
you were at Wall Street,
Yep.
you started to work, and then unfortunately it didn't work out. Did you, at this point, like, did you already have planned out everything? Like, oh, this is what my life is going to look like. I'm going to be a finance guy. It's going to be 5 years I'm here, 10 years I'm here. Like everything is lined up.
Look, man, no, that's not at all. I wish I could say that, but no. My plan had worked up until that point, you know, and there's an expression that says, you know, humans make plans and God laughs, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened to me. And, you know, I really wanted to be on a hedge fund. And I figured, you know, with my personality, clearly I've proven it in entrepreneurship, but, you know, with my personality, my ambition, my drive, I just wanted to make a lot of money and just be on Wall Street and crush it.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
Wall Street seems to be the place to be to make some money.
And it was, you know, I was 24 and, you know, 23, 24. And I was just looking at myself. I'm like, man, like when I got there, I lived in a 200 square foot apartment, you know, working 100 hours a week, sleeping at my desk.
Yeah.
It wasn't for sure the glamour that I thought it was, but it was hard work. It was good work. And it taught me a lot of things, you know, through
for
that.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a good thing though, like even though like you had to like go back to live with your mom, you had like the family support that you needed, because you know I hear stories like that all the time, and most of the time the family are not like that supportive, you know. It's like, oh, just get back at it. Oh no, you didn't study all of that to, you know, change trajectory. Just go back at doing it even if you hate this job.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a very good thing that your mom was like supportive of whatever you decide to do, even though of course like you need to hustle at the end of the day and make it work. So
yeah, and you know, just to chime in there for a second, it's funny, life is full circle, right? And the universe, I'm a big law of attraction guy. So my mom always knew, knowing my personality, I'm the younger child, she always knew that I had something. And when I set my mind to something, my mom, if she was here, she'll tell you, consider it done, he'll get it done. So I think she saw the intention and the vocation that I had. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not fucking working for anybody else again, you know? And I hope I can curse here, but anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. It's allowed on this one.
Awesome. So maybe bleep it out or something. But anyway, and you know, she never slowed me down. But ironically, at that time, she was going through a divorce, her second marriage, and so she was going through a tough time. So I was trying to figure out how to start a business. Not even trying to start a business. I was trying to figure out how to start a business. Years later, I taught her the business when I took off. And now she's a fix and flipper and does 30 deals a year by herself. Wow. And English is her second language. So she crushes it. She clears $500,000 easy by herself a year. And I wholesale the majority of the deals. My company wholesales the majority of the deals to her. And now we partner. Like I just made a post today. We made $153,000 on a flip in Deerfield inside of 60 days.
So now the whole family is in real estate.
The whole family. My girlfriend works with me in the company. I brought everybody on, you know, and you know, I took off, and we'll talk about that, but it's full circle, you know. And she was like, I'm glad I bet on you, because it worked out for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you say like, oh, it wasn't the original plan, but at the end of the day, you know, like we see that especially on like first generation of immigrants. I see like, for me, coming from France, and like a lot of people that I met that come from various countries, we come to this country thinking, oh, we're going to do this specific thing. This first plan, 99% of the time is going to fail.
Correct.
And we all end up doing something completely different. Yep. So it's it is what it is. And looking back at it, you know, sometimes in life, I feel like when something happened to you, you're like, damn it, it sucks. Like, why does it happen to me at this specific time? But when you give it enough time, like you look back at it 5 years, 10 years later, it's actually, it was for your own interest. In your case, like maybe you'd be miserable working on Wall Street, and you found your place in real estate, and you're crushing it. So
I believe it. Things, to your point, I believe for many, many years now, I don't believe in the expression, it happened to me. I believe it happened for me.
Exactly.
That's a mindset shift. I apply that to any area of my life, even after I had had a lot of success or whatever, whatever anybody would constitute as success. And, we scaled the shit out of the company. But even then, there was a lot of problems that happened, right? And mistakes, and some self-inflicted, some not, bad partnerships, whatever. But all those things happened for me. And it's easy to say now, but it's a muscle like anything. You have to practice that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I believe. All those things led me to that next
Absolutely.
good thing,
Absolutely. And it took me several years to realize that. But now I'm trying to have this habit every time something bad happened to me. And sometimes it's the law of series, you have like several things in a row. But
Sure.
I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what is the lesson that I need to learn from this? And keeping my mind open to possibilities, because it doesn't mean it can be bad right now and it can be bad for a few days. But 10 years from now, I'm probably going to have completely forgotten about these things. So
Correct.
It's like always moving forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you say like you ended up on this Shantery podcast or video or something like that. I remember back in the day when I first learned about wholesaling, there wasn't all this information available that we have today. Today I feel like everything is like commonly available.
Yes.
Maybe I don't know if you disagree or not with me, but yeah, I think it's too much.
Yeah.
I think people get confused because they're getting all those different coaching programs, all those different methods. Not that one is bad or one is wrong. It's just like you need to pick your fight. Like doing everything at the same time is very confusing.
Yeah.
And people have this tendency today to like really watch all those videos about making cold calling, but at the end of the day, the only way to learn is to make 100 cold call or 1,000 cold call and really learn it. Right?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think I said this on another podcast the other day, but there's almost too much information. Even when I got started in 2016, really, I incorporated in 2017, but the first 6 months is really before I took it, like when I found that guy. But it's too much information now. It's too easy. And I think that, especially today, man, in 2023, don't even get me started. I mean, the majority of young people today, I'm 32, so I'm still relatively young, but man, they want shit insta this, insta that. And and I think Instagram is great. We're both on it. I put out a ton of content, but what they don't see, and I make it a very good point to be very candid on my videos and say, yeah, it took me 6.5 years to be an overnight success. Yes, it only took me 6.5 years, right? You see all the 150K flips and the 100 flips and the $1 million years or whatever, but you don't see the 100, 200 other fucking deals that I fucked up, right? And you don't see all the tens of thousands of cold calls that it took me on my own, not with a cold caller, on my own, with my ex-partner, to get that skill. All the houses that we went to in the hood, right? All the deals that I got burned on, learning those lessons, all the mentors that I paid throughout the years. It's over $1 million at this point in coaching and deal splits and partnerships and equity. It's over $1 million in my career at this point. So when people are like, oh, it's 15 grand for a coaching program, I'm like, man, that's nothing. Like, I've put up a lot of time and a lot of energy. So I think people need to give themselves some grace. I think it's talked too much about. People just need to get out there and get shit done.
Yeah.
At a certain point, like you said, you need to pick up the fucking phone and start. And it's not going to look pretty. It's not going to look good. It's not going to sound good. I sounded like shit probably for the first 2 years of the business, but I figured it out. And that I think that's what distinguishes a successful entrepreneur. When you see them years later, like me now and you now, you're looking at the product of a lot of fucking mistakes to get to that point. And I think that where a successful entrepreneur lasts a long time and has longevity is that they keep moving forward, especially if they don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I would say to anybody watching.
Absolutely. And I think that's for like everything in life. And I mean, like, we were talking earlier before we get started on like branding and all of that, and we'll touch base on that. But when I started this podcast and I started to do social media, I give myself 3 years. I'm like, no matter what, even if I don't just gain 1 follower per year, I'm going to do that for the next 3 years.
Yep.
because it takes a massive amount of time and a massive amount of effort to accomplish anything in life.
Yeah.
And I think that's where most people might fail, because they want this instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
They post one video, they expect to gain followers right away. They do one podcast, they expect to have, I don't know, many viewers. The truth is, at the beginning, you suck in anything that you do. You know, I listen like in the morning now. I have like a commute of 30 minutes when I drop off my kid at school, and so I listen to Hormozy podcast. And Alex Hormozy was saying that he started his podcast, I think, in 2016. No one knew who he was back in the day, and he was talking about gym and like very far from like the book launch and everything that he's doing. And it was like, my podcast at the beginning sucks, and it's okay. And go back there because it's still online, and listen to the first podcast that he did in 2016. Agreed. But it's only in putting several hours in one thing that you become very good at it. And so I think that's what it is, and it's what you did in real estate. Yeah. And people need to understand that.
Yeah, look, to your point, I've been on social media. So for 6 years, I built my company. Our best year was $7.3 million. So we scaled. You're in the business, so you know that's definitely in the top 1% of 1% of all wholesalers around the country. And I'm very grateful for that. But I busted my ass for that too. And I mean, messed up a lot of stuff along the way. But I've been on social media. Now, I was never on social media. I was always the guy behind the scenes. I was like, I'll let my deals do the talking. I didn't believe in social media. 13 months ago, I decided to get on social media, and I decided to put content out there. Real, raw, authentic, transparent content. That was my point. Like, if you look at my stuff, it's always like a HUD. It's always an address. It's always a wire transfer. Now, I do a lot of other educational shit, but every single week, I'm posting actual deals. I post my marketing budget. I post my Amex bill, like what I spend a month. And I want you to know that it's real. I'm not, I see a lot of gurus and stuff out there, and they're touring all these freaking properties, and they're like, hey, I'm on another property today and another tour. And I'm like, man, I see a lot of freaking tours, but I don't see any fucking HUDs. I don't understand it, right? And, when you get to a certain level in any business, the circle's like that big. So we know who's really doing deals and who's really not. Yeah. And I find that funny because that's what happens too. A lot of people follow the wrong people, and then they get upset when they don't have those results. So I did 13 months of content with no team, right? Just my girlfriend and I. Filming shit, editing it on an iPhone, putting that shit out there. Dude, I barely had any views. Like, I just now started getting thousands of views per video. Yeah. And it's not even every video yet. So my first meetup, there was 20 people there. I was like, damn, this is embarrassing. But I did it. And I was like, all right, the next one. The next one was 80. The third one you went to was 100 and something. I mean, again, it just keeps going, right? Sure. And the first event I ever spoke at was nothing. And then I did a Spanish event. 6 people showed up to it. And I was there on Saturday for 4 hours, but I delivered 100% value in those 4 hours. And I believed in that.
And I think giving the raw version is actually what people need now. And I always say, I think now in social media, everybody wants to have like the perfectly edited video. If you look at my stuff, like I'm doing it the Gary Vee way. I was like, I have 2 ways to do that. It's either I get like an editing team and everything, and I'm going to post 1 video per week because I'm going to record 30 of the video, and we're going to take our sweet time to edit and put all the nice emojis and everything. Or I just post 3 videos a day, like recorded with my iPhone, and that's it. And so that's what I choose to do. And some videos don't work. Some video works very well. It's content at the end of the day.
The most random freaking videos work. I've done I did a video that got like 200,000 views on TikTok. It was the most random shit about me talking about a squatter outside of one of my rehabs. And I was in shorts and a hat with glasses on. My girlfriend filmed it. And this shit took off. Yeah. And she's like, hey, this video's doing really good. I was like, that one? Really? It looks like shit. And it's like, yeah, dude, hundreds of comments. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, but whatever. I guess it's good, But again, the moral of the story is get out there, put forth the activity, do it, look ugly, look bad, sound bad. I don't give a shit. I and him will respect you a lot more for doing that. And you will get to where you want to get to much faster that way. If you just don't care about anybody's opinions, then you just go. Because you're proving to yourself self-confidence. That's what you're building. Because you're doing things on it. You say you're going to do something and you do it. Every time you do that, whether it be the gym or not drinking, for example, that we were talking off camera, being a good father, being a good businessman, whatever it is that you say, I'm going to stick to content for 3 years. You prove that to yourself, dude, your self-confidence, your self-esteem goes up.
Absolutely.
When people have a lack of self-confidence or a lack of self-esteem, I can almost guarantee you, outside of trauma, but I can almost guarantee you that that person is living that way because they're not keeping promises to themselves. That's why they live with that constant anxiety, because they have a lot of loose ends in their life.
For sure.
So if you say you're going to do something, do that shit and do it well and do it fast.
For sure. For sure. Going back to what you were saying about, your early years.
Yeah.
Something that catch my attention, but you say that after watching this Sean Terry and going to this event, you were like, okay, I'm going to find this real estate wholesaler, but it's not like most people would do, but it's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Being like, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I buy you coffee? Or like, no, you went and you were like, okay, can I front the bill for marketing and then we'll split the first deal? And that's what people should do, and that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I see days after days, I can show you like hundreds of DMs where I have a bunch of people just like, hey, can I buy you coffee? Like, no, you can't. No, you can't pick my brain. Like it's like the worst thing to ask to someone. Like it's absolutely terrible. And and so yeah, I can't agree more. It's really the way to do it. And yeah, so tell me a bit more about that. Like you met this guy, you offered to front the marketing and split the first deal. What happened from there?
Yeah. So look, to what you're saying, I make fun of it, and I've said this on stage, and I don't know, I've made videos about it for sure, but I always say you should pick your nose, don't pick anyone's brain, right? And that's, it's funny, but it's true, man. Just think about it from anybody watching this right now. This is not to sound like an asshole or arrogant, but we're both busy people, okay? I'm sure. We both have 1,000 things going on in any given day. You think that you offering me a $5 cup of shitty coffee at Starbucks, and for 30 minutes, I'm going to teach you everything that took me 6.5 years to learn. The hour and a half of my life that I just burned, I could have made $50,000 on a deal on, or been with my family, or done something else, or gone to the gym, etc. That's not the way to approach it. But when I have young guys and girls or older, when they approach me and they're like, hey, I have this deal, can we JV together? Now you have my attention, because I believe in leading with value. And that's, I think, such an underserved thing. And anyone listening out there, trust me, lead with value. You will never, ever, ever be steered wrong if you lead with value. I promise you that. And I think that that's one of the major reasons why I was able to succeed fairly quickly. I was also willing to put in an ungodly amount of work, and I did. But going back to your question, so the question was like, what happened?
Like, what happened after you find this gentleman and you started to work with him?
Yeah, so he told me, really, it wasn't mentoring like per se. There was no like official coaching program. It was just kind of like, sure, man, like I made my way into his office. Yeah. By the way, if he wouldn't have answered the phone, I would have shown up the next day anyway. I would have knocked on his door at the office, and I would have been like, either you're going to give me a job or I'll follow you around. I'll buy you lunch. I'll wash your car. I don't give a shit. I would have done whatever, because I don't care at that point. And you need to humble yourself sometimes in life. And I was very humbled at that point in my life. Wall Street had kicked my ass out. So, he told me, hey, here's a couple lists. His strategy, which I don't recommend at the time for a newbie, was direct mail. And he told me, start with direct mail. You take the calls. You go out, you see the property, you make offers, you put it on their contract. That's literally how it was.
2015, maybe the cost was like a little bit lower.
Yeah, this is 2017. So yeah, I think it was like 33 cents a postcard. I had a Bank of America credit card that had like $28,000 on a limit. It was like my little safety net. Yeah. I bankrolled everything off of that. I almost bankrupted myself, but we did hit. It was one seller that called about 2 months into the direct mail. Again, law of attraction. I put myself out there. I was willing to go bankrupt, and the universe returned it in kind. And one seller had 4 deals, and then we got a 5th deal. My first deal ever that we got locked up was a list pendants, and it took a year to close. So imagine, I had a 40K assignment all there. We have to sue the person. He didn't even know how to sue the person at the time because he didn't have that level of experience yet. There were just lessons I learned. I could have quit right there too, but we didn't. But yeah, that's what happened. And we started, working together. I could ask him questions, which I would. He would give me time where he could. And I understand he was busy too. But
is he the one who showed you like how to pull the list and
yeah, he showed me, honestly, he showed me how to pull at the time, it was, we used to call it empty nester, but that was the list. It was older, high equity, whatever. Honestly, it was a shitty list, but whatever. We didn't know any better.
were you using like, I don't even know if PropStream was.
No, Rebo Gateway was what we were using, bro. If you remember that.
I don't. Back in the day, I was going straight to the courthouse.
Yeah, so I learned that later on. But yeah, it was something called Rebo Gateway. I don't even know if it's around anymore.
Yeah, probably not.
Like when I found out about List Source, it was like, wow, this is really cool, So no, we didn't have fucking PropStream. We didn't have Real Flow. We didn't have all these batch leads, like all this stuff that you kids have out there.
That's another thing too. Like it's always I feel all that fuck when I say that, but when I studied in real estate, it was like 15 years ago in France, and I was doing pretty much the same thing as we're doing here. But it was a nightmare to get those leads because I had to actually go to the courthouse with a notebook. They would open the book and I would take notes. And every week we would redo the same thing after like I had a few guys working with me and we were all like taking notes. Now, like when you see how easy it is, like with an internet connection and like
it's crazy,
$90 a month.
It's crazy. I even, like people pay me for coaching and mentorship. And I show them, high level things because I pull my own list now too. And I use List Source still for little things here because it's quick, it's convenient, whatever. But I'm being honest. Like I always say, like a monkey could do this business because they really can. Dude, you could be in your underwear with a cell phone and a laptop, old ass laptop with an old ass cell phone. Dude, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're willing to put in the work. So yeah, that's how we did it, man. And direct mail is not a good suggestion if you're just getting started and you have zero experience. I burned myself out really quickly. Thankfully, those deals hit. We split them 50-50 and, we had a little bit of money. I paid off the credit card, kind of went through there. But even after that, I think we worked together for about 5 or 6 months. Yeah. Even after that, we kind of went out on our own, my ex-partner and I, and dude, we bounced around for like the next year and a half until we found another mentor. And we were just cold calling on our own, direct mail where we could, here and there. I mean, it was really, really daunting,
So everything back in the day was pure outbound, like no inbound leads at all. Just like
we didn't even have texting. Texting wasn't even a thing at the time.
So I guess like the biggest issue that you had was probably the cash conversion cycle because between the time that you put some money in your marketing and the time that this money is coming back. I mean, on Mailers, sometimes like it takes months. Like I remember like receiving phone calls from Mailers that I sent a year and a half before. And so it's very long. Cold calling is the same thing, like probably like 1,000 dials to get one lead, 70 to 75 leads to get one deal. So like,
and that's pretty good now.
Yeah.
In South Florida, it might be 100 leads to a deal now. Yeah. Again, you have a lot of factors there. You have conversion, you have who's on the phone, how are they converting, how good are they in sales, right? All that kind of stuff. What list you're hitting, that kind of stuff. If they're spamming your numbers, whatever. But the cash conversion cycle, bro. Look, I was a finance guy. I understood what the terminology meant, but I didn't know what the fuck it was in business. No. I mean, we didn't have KPIs. Okay, I didn't even know what a KPI was at that time. But again, it's just to prove to people. We still made a lot of mistakes. I mean, a lot of mistakes. We had virtually zero guidance, and we still got deals done.
I'm a huge believer that, I mean, obviously, like, if you want to consider yourself a business owner at some point, you need to learn how to read the KPI and track everything.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge believer that if you do 10 times the effort of whoever your competitors are doing, you're going to succeed no matter what.
Yes.
If people are calling 100 leads per day and you're calling 1,000 or 500, you're going to succeed no matter what. Because if you put more effort into it, you have this margin of error. Even if you suck at sales, even if you don't track anything, you're going to succeed at some point.
100%. And again, getting into the law of attraction and the universe and all that stuff, dude, if you put up, I'm a firm believer and I'm a product of it because I applied it. I still apply it till this day. Obviously, I have a team now. It's different. But if you are willing to suck it up for a year, 2 years, it took me 2.5 to really, till I had an operation. But I sucked it up for almost 3 years. But if you're willing to do that, I believe you will be rewarded for it. The universe will see it. I always said that I wanted all these things and I wanted to be rich and I wanted to be the best wholesaler in South Florida. Even when I got started, that was my intention. I ended up becoming that eventually. But when you say things like that, the universe in my eyes is kind of like, oh, really? You want this? Okay, well, here's how hard it's going to be. Let's see how long you last. And it weeds a lot of people out. And that's when people start with justification. And, I meet people and they're like, bro, how are you finding deals in South Florida? It's so competitive. I'm like, just closed another 12 last month, man. I don't see the competition. I'll put it to you this way. If you focus on looking for negative things, what will you find? Negative things. If you focus on finding positive things, then you'll find positive things, right? So people in your life that walk around and they're like, hey, man, how are you? And they're like, oh, God, let me tell you. And then I'm like, oh, shit. Immediately, I'm like, I don't want to fucking have this conversation. Because they're like energy vampires. And I'm like, get away from me. Not that I don't care, obviously, but I'm like, get away from me. Because I don't, like, even if I'm having a shitty day and somebody asks me, like, hey, how are you? I'm like, dude, fantastic. How are you doing? I don't care. First of all, nobody cares. So take your feelings out of this shit. Get your feelings out of this. This is probably going to be a little rough for people to hear, but I really don't give a shit. I care about your success more than I do about your feelings. I'll put it to you that way. And that's what I tell my students too. Now, of course, I'm there for them. I coach them and I help them. I'm like, hey, I understand. It sucks, whatever. But my students know, man, you can ask them. I am very cut, dry, raw. And I'm like, listen, if you want the guy to give you a pat on your back and to spank your ass and give you a shoulder to cry on, I don't know, go sign up for somebody else's mentorship. Because I'm here to make winners. I'm not here to fucking be your mommy. You know what I mean? And in business, this is a contact sport. Okay? Would you agree?
Yeah.
Business is a contact sport. You better have your fucking pads on and your helmet because you're going to get hit sometimes. And you better know how to hit too. So again, I just like to get all that bullshit out of the way and just be raw with it from the beginning.
I love that. I love that because that's the main reason why 8 years ago I moved away from France. Even though I had a career there, I was pretty successful in real estate, started very young, and I had a good real estate development operation. But it was just this mindset, dude. People were just like negative about everything. Obviously, like running a business in France, it's complicated. Taxes are high. Like a lot of things are negative. But when you wake up every morning, you go to your freaking office and everybody has this mindset. It takes a toll on you. Yeah. Even though you're a positive guy and you're always looking forward, it takes a toll on you. So one day I was like, you know what? That's a beautiful thing about here in America. People are growth oriented. I feel like people are they wake up in the morning and they get shit done. And so I like this. Backside of it is like, as you say, like it's there is a huge competition here. Like It's a competitive market. But if you want to succeed, here you have the tools to succeed. And that's something that was complicated to do in France. So I totally agree with this positivity mindset. It's something very important, and that's something that I'm very thoughtful about now. Like keeping the people with negative energy out of my life.
Yeah. There's a great book. It's called The Energy Bus. It's a really simple read. It sounds ridiculous and it kind of sounds childish, but the dude talks about your life is like a bus, right? And a bus has a bunch of bus stops. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people get out, sometimes people get in.
Yeah.
You never know who's getting out and who's getting in. So you have to think about your life like an energy bus. Be very careful with who the fuck you let on your energy bus, right? And sometimes you just got to pull the bus over and say, get out. This is your stop. Bye-bye. Don't let them back on, right? So it comes across sometimes like, oh, this guy's a dick, or oh, this guy's really selfish. I'll tell you right now, I am extremely selfish because I care more about me than I do about people's petty shit. Mm-hmm. Now, if somebody comes to me and you know me personally, dude, anyone who knows me will tell you I will go above and beyond, break my back to help somebody along the way. I will fucking help them. I'll stop my day. I'll take my time. If I see that they want it for themselves, if I see that you're eating shit and you want a freebie, brother, I'm not your guy, because I'll call you out on your bullshit and I'll keep it moving and I won't lose a wink of sleep. But again, I think there's like the stigma about being selfish. I bought my mom a house in 2021 as a gift. Why was I able to do that? And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. I'm saying that because I was selfish for 4 years, I was able to do that. If I wasn't selfish, I wouldn't be able to have done that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And again, you have to be selfish for you in order to help the people who you care about. If you're not selfish, you're getting pulled in a lot of different directions. So that's why you see a lot of successful people, they get hate from a lot of people. And people are like, oh yeah, but he's kind of a dick. Why is he a dick? Well, he doesn't really like care about people, or he doesn't really pay attention to people. I'm like, you don't know that. He just doesn't care about the people who approach him the wrong way, or she, right? And I think that that's super important, man. You got to get super dialed in. This is not an easy journey. Any entrepreneur will tell you that. A real entrepreneur, a real successful entrepreneur. And the higher up you climb, the more laser focus you have to have.
Yeah.
Especially when you build out a team. You know, a negative person in your team is like a cancer. You have to cut that very quickly. And I've seen that happen in my organization, where it's imploded my organization because I've been nice. You know, in France,
and even like, I mean, even here when I had a very similar experience as you with like the wholesale company and everything, and we'll talk about that. But I had people in my organization that I knew deep down I needed to let go of this person, but because they've been with me for a while, or because I was seeing like, I don't know, something that I was probably the only person seeing, it took me way too long to get rid of this person, and it impacted the whole company. You know, like it limited the growth because of that.
Correct, and it impacted you, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so I really like this image of the bus, and I think that's really something. It's true. Like, it's life is a bus, and some people come in, some people come out, and it's your duty to let people know when it's time to get off of the bus. Yeah.
Correct, and you listen. For me, it was very clear cut. That's why it goes back to the why with the whole Tony Robbins thing. My why was my mom and my grandmother. It still kind of is, right? They're in a great position now. Thankfully, right? I busted my ass to help them that way, and my mom crushes it, and we'll get into that now. But again, you need to care about you so that you can help whatever your why is. So for me, it was very clear from the beginning. I fired all my friends. I got rid of all my friends. I exited all the group chats. I stopped going out. I stopped meeting people. I would Saturday, Sunday, it didn't matter. I was working and I was grinding. And that's why when people meet me, they're like, man, you've only been in this business for about 6 years. How the hell have you done 500 plus deals? I'm like, well, if you followed me around for a day, you'd know why. I have an extreme level of focus, and I don't let bullshit in my life, right? I've made mistakes here and there, right? And I've had fun and we partied or whatever. But man, it just doesn't go very far, you know. But you need to do that you need to find your why, first of all. Like, it really does start with why. Whatever that is, I don't care what it is. If your why is money, awesome.
Did you knew it right away? Because I feel like I never been to a Tony Robbins conference, but I read a few books that he wrote, and I watched, I think, on Netflix, they recorded one of his events, and so I have like a little bit of an understanding of the why concept, and from my understanding, the first level of why is always something superficial. It's always going to be, because I want to drive a Lambo, because I want more money, I want to live in this mansion, and all of that. And it's really, when you go a few levels down, that you really find the real why in your life.
Yeah.
Was it for you, like, right away, you always knew right out of the gate, okay, this is a why, or did you have to do like some research on yourself to find it?
Look, man, my personal experience, I watched my mom struggle my entire life. She immigrated out of Cuba to Venezuela, and from Venezuela to here. My dad was never present in my life. He was a scumbag, in a lot of ways. So all I watched her do was work from 5 a.m. till 7 p.m., multiple jobs. She could have taken the easy route out and dated something she never did. And my grandmother took care of us. So, and my older brother was always a great example. He went off to the military. He went to Iraq. He came back. He really set the bar very high, and we're 9.5 years apart. So that was my father figure, right? Still is in some ways. But for me, it was very early, man. I told my mom at 12, I was like, one day I'm going to be very rich, and you're not going to have to work as hard. So when I thought Wall Street was going to do that for me, right? When I went into entrepreneurship, I always knew, like, yes, did I want the money? Of course, right? Did I want nice shit? Of course, right? But that will only get you so far. So here's what happens. If your why, like you just said, you eloquently put it, it's superficial. If your why is superficial, when really hard times hit you, which they will inevitably, that why is only going to get you so far. That's why a lot of people quit, because they think that they want that thing that's fueling them.
Yeah.
But when they see the hardness that they have to go through it, the Lambo doesn't really matter that much anymore. The Rolex doesn't matter that much anymore. The big mansion doesn't really fucking matter that much anymore. But if you're talking about a single mom and a single grandmother who raised you, that you have to look at all the time as a man, I guarantee you, you could set me on fire and I'd sit there and take it before a fucking Lambo, right? So I think that's where the deep level is. But yeah, I think I really knew it very early on, man. And another reason of my why, man, I guess because my dad wasn't present in my life, I had that abandonment issue thing. So I always wanted to be ultra successful. I was always very driven. And I don't know if it was to prove a point or whatever. And then he passed away when I was 15, so I couldn't do it. And now I have all the success, and I'm like, this motherfucker's gone, right? So it doesn't really matter. But I'm not competing against that anymore. I'm really competing against me nowadays. And I stopped competing against other people a very long time ago. It served me so much better. Because I think you can beat people all the time, right? And beat is a relative term. But can you really beat yourself?
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think when you're trying to beat people at some point, like, it doesn't really bring you any personal fulfillment or enjoyment. Like, I feel like you reach it and then it's like, okay, what's next?
Right. And then you're always finding targets. And that's cool. I'm a very competitive person. You know, I'm naturally competitive. I'm ultra competitive. But yeah, my mom and grandmother, man, that was very clear to me from the beginning. So every deal that I got closer, I was like, yeah. And then when I was able to teach my mom, it was like, wow.
Was it the thing like when you started in real estate and you're like, okay, that might be something, like that might be my next career in real estate? Did you think right away, like, oh, the goal is one day I will buy a house for my mom? Like, was it something always on your mind, or did it came like down the road?
No, it was always a goal of mine ever since I was a little kid. Like I said, I told her when I was 12 that I was going to be rich, and I'd take care of her. So it was always a goal of mine. It kind of like got forgotten the first 3 years of business because I was so focused and so like dealing with all the stuff and engulfed in that I honestly like forgot about it. And then it was right, my birthday's in February, so it was right around my birthday. Like it was December of 2020, so height of COVID, and we were very successful. We were humming at that point, and I started thinking about like, oh, what am I going to do with my birthday, and blah blah blah, and I was talking about it with my friends, and I was thinking about like, oh, what am I going to buy myself, like something nice, whatever. And then it just dawned on me. I was like, you know what? It would be really fucking cool if I bought my mom a house on my birthday. And I don't know why that came out, but I was like, what a better gift than that, right? And ironically, going back to the universe thing, my mom was living in Hollywood at a rental at the time. And her car had just gotten stolen from the rental. The landlord was kind of a jerk. And anyway, I was already kind of like irritated with that situation. And then he gave her a 30-day notice to be out because he was going to sell the house. So I got into it with him. I got my attorney involved, and then we pushed it back to 60 days. So I came over to my mom's house, and then that really pissed me off. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna kick up this plan now, and I'm gonna buy the freaking house. So I took my mom to lunch, and I told her, she was stressing out about the notice and this and that. And I told her, I was like, listen, you can take that notice and you can light it on fire because I'm going to buy you a house. And, she freaked out, man. And yeah, so I bought her a house in Boca right here on Palm Beach.
That's beautiful, man.
That was like 2 months later. Thank you. Yeah. And that was, man, it was, every day that I go by, I just filmed some content there. I was not online at the time.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that we didn't get it like on video because it was crazy. But we filmed some content at her house a couple weeks ago that's going to come out now, where we were just like we sat down and we were like discussing it with my mom and grandmother, like what was that like, right? There was a lot of crying going on, obviously, even in this content. But yeah, man, every time I go over there, I get this like feeling that I've had nice shit, man. I've had all the Rolexes. I've had nice cars. I've lived in really nice places, whatever. And like those superficial things, and there's nothing against them. But I'm telling you right now, there is nothing that can replace the feeling. Like every weekend when I go to visit them with my girlfriend, when we pull up to that driveway, I get like a little kid in Disney World. I'm so giddy. And then my grandmother greets me and she's like, hola, ah, and she's so excited. And she's like, she always brings it up to me like at least a couple times a month. She's like, I love the house. I love the house. Did you see the gardening I did outside? And it just makes me so happy because that's why you do all this hard work, you know, and I think that I think I would have been successful either way, but I don't think I would have had the level of success that I had if I didn't have the why that I did. For sure.
It gives you like a direction, like, you know, you have a target, you have something to look forward and to aim, for sure.
It gets you through, bro. Listen, I've been in some dark times, as we all have, right? I've been near bankruptcy a couple times, right? Like just with the business imploding and bad partnerships and, you know, people stealing from, I mean, just all of it. I've been through it. And, dude, those tough times, that's the thing that keeps you going. You know, when you do want to quit, that's the thing that keeps you going.
It's exactly what it is. And I heard someone saying one time, and it really like resonated with me. It was like the difference between entrepreneurs and the rest of the world is that when you have one of those hard times, what are you going to do? 99% of people are going to quit because it's too hard to overcome it. So they go back to finding a job or whatever it is. And that's perfectly fine because you can't have like, everybody is not an entrepreneur by itself, you know, it's perfectly fine too. But I've been through so many times in my life where, you know, you have those sleepless nights and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're stressed and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the real difference is that finding deep down in you the strength to get back up in the morning and get back on your phone and keep going and keep going. And it's a journey, man. And it's a roller coaster, and life is really embodying sometimes, because I feel like once you reach some certain heights at some point, that's usually when something is going to happen and like the whole house of cards fall back. And that's something that happened, you know, several times where you feel like, oh, okay, this time I made it, and then everything fall back. But because you created those habits, because of the person that you are, you find the strength to rebuild. And the skill set that you acquired in your early days and you kept acquiring all your life, that's why I'm saying, like, you will never go broke, because even if you go broke, you have the skill set to rebuild from scratch again.
I had to rebuild from scratch again a year and a half ago. And dude, I've been through it. I've literally done it. I was rich, I lost a lot, and I was rich again. So I've been there. I've done that. I had two business partnership divorces. I had people around me that you know, that stole from me and stuff like that. People that fucked me on deals. I mean, straight point blank. People that I knew for years. Dude, I again, and I'm not crying to anybody here. I'm not a victim of anybody. That's the furthest thing. But when those things happen, do they suck? Yes. Did I have a fucking moment of a pity party and I cry and, you know, by myself and I fuck, god damn it, and throwing shit around? I'm human. The difference, like you just said, is that I compose myself and I say, well, what the fuck are you going to do about it? You're going to cry about it? What's going to happen? What the fuck is that going to get you? Absolutely nothing. All right, so let's get back to fucking work. And, you know, for the last year, I've been scaling back up, and, you know, the education company took off too, but I've been scaling back up, and now we're fucking scaled again and we're humming. I have 0 partners. And I couldn't be happier. And I'm so grateful for my team. I'm grateful for the people that are around me. And the real people stuck around through that. And a lot of losers left my life. And I'm like, good riddance, right? So I think that I don't know about you, but I get even more emotionally charged and even more energy and fueled when shit like that happens to me, because I just view it as a challenge.
If you look at some of my most successful deals and best month was a month where I had my back against the wall. You know, it's like, shit, there's almost nothing in the checking account. I need to make money. It's not a choice at this point.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
you have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that, you know, like through different methods. I mean, Grant Cardone would say like reinvest everything and just leave 1,000.
Yeah, go broke.
Or whatever it is, but you need to find this motivation. And I see that too in your sales team, you know, in your acquisition team. The best salespeople I ever had were people that had like very bad spending habits because they get the check, they go party, they're broke, they come back on Monday morning,
they kill it.
They're going back at it, and it's really what it is.
Yeah, and you know, I think that there's a lot to be said about that. So I try to I don't try. I hate the word try. I apply that in a healthy way, and I stay as lean and as broke as possible in a lot of ways. I have a lot of assets. I have a lot of things, you know, marketing. But when we have really good months, which, you know, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 months, when you have no partners, that is a considerable amount of money, right? And that's a lot of temptation. So thankfully, I've been able to go through all this shit and get it out of my system earlier on. But now I immediately take a lot of chips off the table and I pour it into another rental, or I pour it into more marketing, or I pour it into the education company, or I pour it into something else, or I go to an event, or my girlfriend and I go to like a leadership summit. I don't know. But we're finding things to consistently put that energy into.
But I would bet that the reason why you're doing that today is because back in the day,
I blew a lot of money.
And we all did, you know, like I had like years with several seven figures, and then looking back at it, shit, what happened? Like, where is all this money? Because like it's what happened. And so I feel like as an entrepreneur, having this habit of, okay, the business is one entity, but you need to take chips off the table without impacting the business growth. Yes. So I noted what you say, like reinvesting in marketing, reinvesting in education, in different businesses that you have. But I think it's a very important thing, like not just like, you know, leaving everything in the company, because you're going to have some good months, you're going to have some bad months. And the prime is, and we're going to talk about like this scaling phase, and I'm pretty sure we went through approximately the same experiences, that when everything goes well, we have unfortunately this tendency to think that it's always going to grow and it's always going to go well. Yeah. So what do? Well, we're like, we need to scale the shit out of this thing. Let's hire more people. Let's spend more on marketing. Let's have big offices. Let's have this, let's have that. And then you end up, when you have a downturn, with an operation that is so heavy, with so many expenses, because I've been at like over 7 figure with less than a 10% profit margin, because of all those operating expenses. So from the outside, it looks great. Oh, we're doing 200 deals a year. Yeah, but what's the bottom line?
You're barely getting by. Yeah, I've been there, man, and I'll be very candid. Our best year, which was 7.3 million gross revenue, dude, the take home, the net was like 1.7 that year, split between 3 guys. Not a lot of money when you really think about it, honestly.
I had years where, and I think that's where like I was starting to really realize that something was going wrong, is when doing 256 deal, I think we did 1 year.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of fucking
It's a lot
deals.
Of brain damage.
But it was in the Midwest, so you know, like a smaller spread, and we do a lot. We do a lot of deals. We do a lot of portfolio packages and stuff like that. But that's a hell of a lot of transactions, you know. Yeah. And then I looked at the bottom line, and I was like, you know what? When I had just a team of 5 people, and I was doing something like, I think we did like 60 or 70.
You made more money.
I made way more money. The bottom line was much
with less headaches.
Yeah.
And more flexibility. You're nimble. like the word that I look for is nimble.
Mhm.
When we did that, the next year, that was 2021. So going into 2022, before rates changed, we were like, 2022, we're going to do 10 million. We're going to crack 8 figures. I mean, I was excited. I was like, holy shit. We went, 7, multiple 7, high 7s. Here we go for 8, right? And then 2022 happened. And then business partnership divorce number 1 happened, which was a shit show. Then number 2 happened towards the end of 2022. So very quickly, an operation of about 27 people went down to like 5. But I use the example of a moving train or a motorcycle. Right? I have a Ducati, so I love Ducatis. So it's a great example to use. So when you're my $7.3 million business, and it sounds like yours too, that is a train, like the bright line here, right? On the road or on the railroad tracks. And the train's doing 60 miles an hour. If a car gets in front of that train, it's going to take 3 miles of railway space for you to fucking brake. Even though it's braking, it's going to take 2 to 3 miles before that train stops. Guess what happens to anything in the way of that train? Completely demolishes it, right? Now, on the other example, if you're a small, lean, mean operation, you might not look from the outside as wow, right? But dude, I'm in a Ducati. If I need to stop, I can slow down in 2 seconds, and I can turn the bike around and I can pivot to a different direction. So in between there's a happy medium for whoever it is. I'm scaling back up now. I'm at scale, and scales, we're still doing 7 figures a year, multiple 7 figures. We're going to crack over 2 this year, but I have no partners. My operation is very lean, and probably 40% is going to be keeping. Yeah. So that's amazing.
That's the goal here. And I think what you said about your operation and the kind of number that you're talking about, like what I see, like it takes like a few months to realize that, the market has been shifting and all of that. And so the problem is when you're at that scale, you have months where you make some big numbers, but then you have months where you're in the negative because your marketing expenses, like I was spending a fortune on PPC. I had like a bunch of different marketing channels. So all those operating expenses, they're still there. So there is month where you're in positive of several 100,000, but then the following month you're in negative. And so that's when this train, when you realize that the problem is here and you have to stop this train as you describe it, and I love this image, all this way until you definitely stop, you're just burning cash. That's why when you're talking about like taking chips off the table, it's something that really resonates with me, because I know that it might take 6 months where you just see the balance of your account going done, and there is nothing you can do about it. So watching the operating expenses and keeping a very lean operation is really the way to go, in my opinion. I realized that when I had a conversation one time of Robert Wensley of Investor Lift, and he was giving me numbers about some of his clients that were running very small operation, just PPC, with 4 or 5 guys crushing past $1 million a month. And I was like, why am I not there with a team of like 15 something people? Like,
Agreed.
It doesn't make any sense.
Agreed.
That's the way, that's the inspiration there. It's like staying lean and mean, and just having the right method of acquisition. Obviously, if you want to stay lean and mean, you can't go play with like cold calling or those stuff where you need an army of VAs and everything. You want to go straight to the most qualified leads you can find, having the right processes, paying a very close attention to your KPIs. But that's where you need to go.
So right now, to your point, this last month, last week alone, we locked up $200,000 worth of wholesale fees assignments. The week before that was about 50, and the week before that was about 60. Okay, dude, my monthly burn rate back in the day at the big operation with Freya used to be $120,000 a month between salaries, marketing, office space, all the bullshit. Right now, my monthly burn rate is about 25. Okay, and we are generating $300,000-$400,000 months. Right now, some months are 100K, some months are 80. The average month is probably 175. Dude, I will take 25, 35K
For sure.
any day of the week to generate 150 to 200.
For sure, because that's an operation. I mean, like we've been talking about the downturn, and for sure, like the market has been changing in the last few years, but we haven't experienced a rough recession yet.
Correct.
I'm saying yet because it will happen one time. No one has a crystal ball.
Yeah.
It's going to happen at some point. I believe that with an operation with operating expenses like you have right now at your level, you can sustain any downturn that can happen, because even if shit hits the fan and you need to, lay low for a little bit, that's an operation that you can maintain. You might do half of the deal that you're currently doing, but you'll still be profitable.
Still be profitable. You can still keep them. And another thing we can talk about too is the experience. You do not need to spend a lot of money, but you also the experience of what to do with those deals. So like creatives, novations, sub twos. There's a lot of rentals that I've kept in the last year because I've done them the right way. And I've taken a dead lead or a novation, boom, it's 30K, right? So I call it a hammer, right? Everybody always walks around with a cash offer hammer. And if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I was there for many years, right? Everything fucking looked like a nail to me. But now I have a hammer, I have a screwdriver, I have an Allen key, I have a wrench. I have a lot of different things that I can use. So your 30K in spend, for example, can go a lot further if the more options that you can give yourself.
So you're telling me that now you have like basically different tools in your toolbox. It's not limited to just like trying. I think you had a good image for that of like trying like to
the hammer
hit on this nail.
Yeah.
I think that's something that you can do now with your current structure because you're more flexible. Like you probably have a smaller team that you can really spend time training and probably a better company culture. I feel like on larger scale company, I think you told me you had 20 something people on your team before. Yeah. It's very hard to get them into this whole creative financing, innovation, and all the strategy. I feel like when you're doing things en masse like this, that's why like when you look at companies like I forget the name in Aventura that does like 1,000 something deals a year.
Oh, Property Force.
Yeah, they only do cash offers because it would be so complicated to try to teach innovation and creative to all those people on the floor.
Yep. That's a massive
so you have an advantage. Too. Yeah, it's a massive operation, but you have an advantage that you would never have. But you can't have at this scale. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why you're able to take so many market share in Florida, as opposed to those larger companies that probably has a bigger marketing budget than you. But because you're creative, because you look at a deal and then you have different exit strategy and different ways to work around.
Yeah.
You're able to close more.
Yeah, I think, wholesaling, to be clear, wholesaling is always my first option. Mm-hmm. Okay. I learned a lot of things about staying in my lane. Mm-hmm. Anytime that I've moved out of wholesaling, with very few exceptions, I get fucking burned. So it's like I leave. It's kind of like when you have kids, so you go bowling and they bowl and then you put the bumpers up, right? And they'll just like wholesaling for me. It's kind of like bumpers. So the ball is always going to hit the pins, And then when you stop wholesaling and you try to get into fix and flip and this and that, it's kind of like the bumpers go down and you're like, oh shit, I just hit a gutter. Yeah. Now you really have to bowl. Now you're committed, right? So there's a lot to be said about that. But yeah, I learned it the hard way. So yeah, anytime I analyze a deal, usually, or my team, the first option is going to be wholesaling. Second option is probably going to be innovation. Third option will be creative. But it all depends on the seller, obviously, the questions that you ask, all those kinds of things. And also, a lot of people don't talk about this, but what does your company need right now? If you're really flush for cash, you have a lot of liquidity in the bank, you might want to pick up that fix and flip, not deal with the headache of wholesaling and showing it all the time. Yep. Pick it up, paint and patch it, maybe wholesale it, right? But if you're strapped for cash and you got a lot of projects going on right now, and you're buying a couple of rentals and you got rehabs and you got wholesale and your cash conversion cycle is getting a little bit longer, you might want to start wholesaling to get money in the bank.
For sure.
So I think that you have to know
rentals. On rentals, the thing is, like, sometimes if you have a lot of cash in the bank because you did a lot of transaction, you might want to kind of offset this active income because
you
have a big bill coming in. So that's definitely a good way to do it. But wholesaling is the best cash machine out there. Like, it's the best.
It's an ATM. It's an ATM. It's a great skill set. It's fantastic, and it's arbitrage. So again, I think wholesaling really caught my attention, and it was natural to me because I was on Wall Street. So I was already arbitraging futures with oil. So when I heard about wholesaling, I was like,
makes sense. Yeah,
this is 1, 2, boom, 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 boom. You get paid assignment fee. That's a fucking arbitrage. So it's just smaller, obviously, and different.
Well, then, believe it or not, like it took me several years to discover wholesaling. I was flipping for years. I was selling turnkey houses, as rental, and I did that for years. And then one day, I was struggling, man. Like, business was good, but I needed a big operation to manage that. And then profit margin were kind of thin because you never know exactly how much you're going to make. You buy, especially those old houses in the Midwest, you put some money into it. You never know exactly what the rehab budget is going to be. Every time you open a drywall, there is a surprise. And so I was a little bit tired of that. And then one day I look at the HUD and I see, like, wait a minute, what is this line, assignment fee on it? This guy made 20K on something where after spending 6 months on it, I'm probably going to make 15K or 10K. What the hell?
Yeah.
And then you go down the rabbit hole. Back in the day, it was basically Chantery. I think there was Cody Sperber teaching a little bit of wholesaling too, but it was far from like being all the information that we have now. But it's definitely, it's an ATM. It's exactly what you say.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about innovation, because I feel it's like the new trendy way of wholesaling. Like, everybody is talking about innovation. And I even know some guys that were transitioned completely their operation from doing wholesaling to only doing innovation now. So how big is innovation in your business currently?
I would say it probably represents about 30%.
Yeah.
30, maybe 35%. Innovations are not new. A lot of people now are finding out about it, but innovation has been around for a very, very long time. Actually, hundreds of years, the form of innovation. So innovation really means a substitution, right? So replacing an agreement with another. So banks have been doing this shit for a very long time. Shout out to Eric Brewer, who's a good friend of mine. I think he's the fucking innovation king by far. And he's been doing them since 2008. Okay. And the reason that he found it out is because in 2008, when things tightened up, as you know, you could not wholesale deals. So he had to find a way to do it and sell the deals to FHA and conventional. So he found novations. So for me, I mean, novations are great. It's really, the best way I could put it is, think of it like a wholesale to a conventional or an FHA buyer. That's really it. A legal wholesale to a conventional or wholesale buyer, or an FHA buyer. That's really what it is.
So basically what it is instead of leaving that much equity on the table, because if you sell to a cash buyer that is going to be like, you're doing a fix and flip or a professional landlord, they're going to want to have some equity for buying cash and off market. You go straight to the retail buyer, so you're going to capture this extra like 10% of equity that is floating on top, right?
Yeah, so it typically works with your dead leads, or where the price that you could get the property at, there's still spread there. Like, there's still 80K. Like, let's say your ARV is 500 and you can only get this seller down to 420. And in order for it to be a wholesale, you need to be at 380, let's say, make a 20K assignment for simple numbers. Most people are like, man, I can't do shit with this 420. But with a novation, I'm like, yeah, we can. We can novate. We can probably sell it for 490, undercut the market right now if it's in good condition. There's two different types. You can do some work into it before closing. The best ones are the ones that you don't have to do any work and you can just throw them out there. So really, you're giving the seller their price, and you're telling them, hey, I'm giving you your price. I'm coming up on my price. It cannot be cash. So if I'm giving you my price, you have to be flexible on terms. Typically, you shouldn't have a problem with that. So the 420 to the 490, there's 70K worth of work there, right? Worth of equity, right? In spread. So what you do is you cover the fees, you cover the real estate transactions, you list it, you show it to the buyers, you qualify them, you go through the the transaction, and you might make like 30K net on that deal. But that was a zero-sum deal before.
Yeah.
So that's really where novations work very
And
well.
when you say rehab, we're not talking about like full gut rehab. We're just talking about whatever
10K,
come up on the appraisal report.
Kind of like a wholesale.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what you're doing. Like maybe you need to paint the house. Okay. Maybe you need to clean it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you fix an electrical panel. A couple of grand, right? Maybe you replace an AC, $4 grand.
Yeah.
Cool. Little stuff, but that makes it financeable. Right. So that's really what and novations are working great right now because the inventory is so tight.
Yeah.
So you can get away with a lot of stuff because buyers are like, I don't care, I want the house. Right. So yeah, novations are fantastic. So people out there should definitely be learning them.
For sure. And
it's
I
an
think
extra
cash
option.
buyers too, like they're being a little bit, they're still out there, but they're being way more picky than they used to be.
Yes and no. I will say, man, it depends on the area.
Yeah.
Dude, we put out a freaking property today in Miami Gardens with open violations. Honestly, I was like, if we make 30 grand, I'd be happy. We're already at 50 grand because it went 20K above ask. But it's Miami Gardens, so it's very hot.
Yeah.
And people want it. And I'm like, man. But we were also, I'm notorious for pricing things below the FHA threshold. So once I stay there, it's off to the races. So a lot of guys will look at, that comes with experience, right?
Yeah.
A lot of guys and girls will look at a deal and be like, oh man, there's nothing I can do here. I look at it, I'm like, it's a 3-1, easy 3-2 conversion. It's 1,400 square feet. ARV is really 500. It's not 430. So you need to learn how to do those things, and that's really where you make that margin, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think too, like the South Florida market is very different from the rest of the country. You know, it's a very large country, and there is already like 50 plus different real estate market that you can work on. And so I feel like things cool off a bit more, like in the Midwest, for example. Cash buyers are way more careful now than they used to be. South Florida, for many reasons, you know, like positive migratory and like a bunch of things like that, make it an attractive market no matter what. I feel like even with interest rate right now at 7+%, the market is still as hot as it ever been. Like I see in my neighborhood, I just bought a house in Dorat, everything is going through the roof. Like I see houses going over asking price, like 50K over asking price.
Oh yeah.
It's an odd market because people want to live in Florida. On an equity standpoint, if you look at it, what equivalent are you going to get? People are moving from California. Look at the price in California. We're way lower than what California is. So if you compare apples to apples, there is still much room to grow here in Florida. So it's a safe bet on equity on the long term. It can fluctuate on the short term. We talked about that. But I think if you have this 10, 20, 30 years vision, there is no way that the market in South Florida is not going to appreciate. So.
I agree. Listen, I'm born and raised in Miami. Dude, I'm 32. I have seen, even when I first started, right, in 2017, I heard all that shit. Market's super hot. Market's crazy. I don't know how much higher this is going to go. Keep in mind, I was buying houses in Miami Gardens for 140 grand, 150 grand. Houses that today I would buy 1,000 if I could, right?
Yeah.
Now these houses, I'm wholesaling them for 380, 400. So just think about that, right? Granted, you have COVID and you have massive appreciation. Nobody saw that coming. That's an anomaly. But yeah, man, I'm very bullish. Keep in mind, for that being said, I'm not holding a lot of things. I'm only buying things that really make sense. And by make sense, I have a rule. If I cannot 2.5x my assignment fee, I'm not going to flip it. Period. A fix and flip.
Yeah.
If it's a wholesale, like this Deerfield Beach house, we closed at 500. It kind of sounds high. We figured we could get 700, maybe 720, depends on the appreciation. Key to key was less than 60 days. We put 30 grand into the house. That's a wholesale. That's not a full rehab. We got 695 cash the first day on the market. And we were listed at 750, no commission. So people are like, oh man, you took a $55,000 pay cut. I'm like, not really. Commissions were 45 grand. So in reality, I forego 10 grand to get cash 3-week closing. Because I value ROI, but I also value ROT. I'm looking at return on time.
Yeah.
Because I know what that money back in my business is going to produce on me.
For sure.
My ROAS in marketing are 6. So I don't care. I know that for every dollar, 6 is going to come back, right? You know, because you're a marketing guy, right? So again, this comes with experience. I didn't always know this. This took a lot of years to learn, but that's why I'm comfortable with every month with the marketing budget, and I increase it now gradually. Back in the day when I started PPC, I would go, all right, we're at 20 grand this month. All right, let's go to 40 next month. All right, let's go to 60 next month, right? And you're like, what the fuck just happened? And then you flood your acquisition team. You flood a lot of systems. You can't follow up the right way. You don't even know if they're working right.
That's the point. Like and we all made the same mistake. The problem is when you scale PPC too fast, your acquisition team can't take it, and so you see a lot of leads just going to waste.
Yep.
And that's something that I still see to this day. Like, we give a CRM to all of our clients. Some of them have their own system, but most of them use it. And so we can see, things such as speed to lead, for example, number of follow-up that have been made in the first 7 days. And that's really where you can see that, when someone call you back and be like, oh, the quality of the lead. Yeah, but you call the guy one time.
Yeah.
It took you 2 days to call the guy.
Yeah, that's not my fault.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I see that a lot. And so I think that's really the point. Like, when you increase your PPC, you need to make sure that first you have the operation that can take it.
Yeah.
You have the operation that you can scale on the back end to take those additional leads. Because the problem is PPC lead are the best quality of lead you can get out there. I don't know anyone that scaled a large wholesale operation that is not running PPC.
Very
but
rare.
the back end of that is that you need to make sure that you have very sharp closer, because those leads are expensive.
Oh yeah, the $600 a lead down here. Fact.
Those leads are expensive, and so the problem is, and I did that in my business. I had some closers because I was scaling, but weren't sharp enough or weren't quite ready yet. They needed like a little bit more training. But I had those leads coming in, so I would give them some leads, and then being like, shit, when I look at the ROI, there is something wrong here.
Yeah.
Like, our cost per lead is the same, but our cost per deal is through the roof. Like, what's going on here?
Correct. And those are KPIs like CPL, CPD, cost per deal, like all those things. If your cost per lead, like you just said, is $200, let's say, and in a 3-month period, your cost per deal was $3,000, and now it's $6,000. What happened? Right? That's definitely a conversion issue. Yep. Because you probably flooded your acquisition team too fast. They couldn't get to the follow-ups. They didn't stay with them. Therefore, your cost per deal went up because you didn't get as many deals as you should have.
Absolutely.
So again, we can talk about KPIs.
And it goes back to those metrics. And at the end of the day, it might be a little bit controversial because everybody talk about cost per click and cost per lead. At the end of the day, I don't give a shit about any of that. The only thing that matters is cost per deal.
Correct.
How much does it cost you to get a closed deal? Do you still make some money? Do you still make more assignment than the cost? Man, you have a profitable business. If the math doesn't pencil out, and you can have a cost per lead that is $30 or $300, it doesn't change anything. What matters is the cost per deal.
Correct. And again, like if my average cost per deal, let's say, is $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Very reasonable in South Florida, by the way.
Yeah.
6 is usually where the average is, right? Depends on the experience. But let's say it's 6. And my average deal assignment is $30,000, which is very realistic in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Very. Mine's higher. But anyway, let's just say 6 to 30. Would you take that? I would take that. I'd take 1,000 of them a month. Mm-hmm. Give it to me. So again, people are so focused, and this happens a lot with newer people, and I get it because they don't have the money yet, and it's very scary. But people are, I think it's hilarious, right? People will spend a lot of money on a lot of things, but then they're like, oh, I want the cheapest lead that you have. And I'm like, I don't want the fucking cheapest lead. I want the best lead that you have. Oh, it's $600? Here you go. Give me 100. Thank you. I'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Right? And I think that comes with experience.
That comes with experience. I think it really comes down to a few things. I think the first one is people don't realize that they are not really in a real estate. We're in marketing and sales. And a marketing and sales business means If you don't put any money in marketing, you're not going to get any sales back. So you need to invest in your business and you need to fuel the engine to be able to make some more money. It's an investment. People consider that as an expense where it's an investment in your business. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, and we're talking about the value of our time at some point, and that's something that you need to be very conscious about. And I realized when I started my agency that I was talking to the wrong avatar of clients. I was having a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
And then none of those people are really qualified for it. And I had to make this conscious choice. And it's like difficult at the beginning when you're paying for those leads to be like, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't do PPC. Even if you can put everything on a credit card, you shouldn't do PPC yet because you're not fucking ready. And so we changed our entire ads strategy for my agency to generate leads, our entire funnels, all of that, to without people that just weren't qualified yet to invest in PPC. And so we're looking for a very specific avatar of customer that are at a certain scale where they can take it. They already have a trained sales team. They have processes in place. They already have some cash flow going on because they're already consistently doing at least 5 deals a month.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone below that, we're actually giving them a lot of stuff for free. We have entire courses that we give them for free. We have an online community. We apologize, but as of right now, it would be a mistake for me to take you as a client.
Agreed.
But here is the value, and maybe a small percentage of them will come back down the road. But I think it's not for everyone. You need to be very conscious of where you are. I think what you did at the beginning to go joint venture with someone with experience is a good thing. When people are calling me sometimes and I'm like, I haven't done my first deal yet. Why are you calling a marketing company? Go work for someone. Go do some joint venture.
Yep.
You don't have any money to spend in marketing yet.
Correct, 100%. And that's why the coaching that I offer, I had a call with somebody the other day that wanted me to coach them. And, they came through the funnel and all that. And we don't really run ads, but they booked a discovery call through Instagram. And I'm talking to this guy. It's quick. I'm very quick on the phone. I know who's going to sign up and who's not, right? I've been in sales a long time. And this guy literally said, he's like, oof, it's a little bit expensive, the coaching. And I said, listen, man, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not the cheapest. I pride myself on that. But I am the best. So if you want to win and you want to work with the best, that's what it is. And this is really a reflection of me valuing my time. And you should take that as a credit to working with me. Because if I value my time that way, that's how I'm going to go to bat for you as a student. Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, well, I need to think about it. I was like, think about it all you want. Have a nice day. And that's it. So I'm not attached to that outcome. Again, I think that also goes back to I became rich in real estate. I did not become rich selling fucking courses. So I want to be clear on that. And I hope that that's a real, because a lot of these gurus did 10 deals in their fucking lifetime. And now all of a sudden I'm the Novation king of South Florida. And I'm like, bullshit. The last time you had a closing was 2021. Bullshit. And again, you got to be careful with the information that you ingest and you take in. And I told the guy on the phone, I was like, what kind of think about it this way. You're asking for a discount from a guy that's going to help you literally teach you skills that can make you millions. Because I've proven it. Think about it this way. If I took a discount on my fee, would you really be happy hiring me to help you go scale a multi-million-dollar operation? No, because I wouldn't. I would expect me to be like, hey, here's the fucking fee. And I said, okay. Like Cody Sperber, he's a friend. And he told me, we've become friends recently. And he told me, he's like, hey, man, whatever. In conversation, he was like, my coaching, I coach you on the education side to scale that business, $10,000 a month. And I was like, all right, cool. No problem. He's like, all right. Like, there wasn't any banter. He's like, this is what it is. He's like, I don't take on anybody, but if you want me to focus the time, there's what it is. But I know the value that Cody's going to bring. I'm like, dude, $10,000 is a steal. I'm like, this is a steal. Just to have proximity to an individual like that is what I'm trying to say. So a lot of people are focused in on, they want to make $1 million their first day in the business. They're not willing to pay it forward and add value to the person that's supposed to help them get there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So for me, at the beginning of the business, I was very joint venture, teach me, I'll split. So people really wanted to work with me, not just because I was smart or I worked hard. It was really because anytime that I called and they saw my number, they're like, oh, this is probably going to be money on the line.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Like my students now, the JV partners that I work with, I know which ones are like, oh, when he calls, there's money on the other end, right? And I'm busy. I mean, we're all busy, right? We all have a lot of stuff. So again, if that rubs you the wrong way, then maybe you're in the wrong business.
For sure.
Straight up.
For sure. It's a very good point, and it always like piss me off when I see like all those videos about like, how do you get started in real estate with $1,000, or how do you start your wholesale business? All of that is bullshit. Like, if you have $1,000, honestly, you shouldn't spend any money on marketing or on a course or anything like that. What you should do is go work for someone, get some experience, and then when you feel ready to start on your own, then sign up for a mentorship, then invest in your business, because at that point, you should have the determination to be like, okay, that's going to be my career, that's where I'm going, and I'm willing to put this 20K on credit card if I need to.
Correct.
Because I'm making a commitment to myself.
Agreed. And again, man, if you have $1,000 and you're looking how to get started, first of all, shame on you in the sense that there's so much free fucking information out there on YouTube University. My page alone, his freaking page. I mean, again, it's all out there. There's so much freaking content. I had much less to work with than that when I first got started. You had even less. I mean, you were in France. That was so different, right? There was no Guru Capital or any of that shit. So again, I only knew about one guy, which was Sean Terry, who's been doing this for 20 fucking years, right? And he's the epitome of consistency, right? And he's such a giver. But again, like, you need to be able to bank on yourself, and you really need to be able to bet on yourself. And if you're not willing to do that, you can't expect somebody else to want to work with you and do that for you. You need to be willing to do that for yourself. And I think that's what I did, and that's why that guy wanted to work with me right away. Absolutely. Because he knew, like, okay, minimal time, he's going to put in the work. He clearly cold called me. He's nuts. He was going to come to my office. He lied to my fucking secretary, and he's going to bankroll his marketing. What was the downside for him? Nothing. There was only upside. So again, flip it. You can do it. There's no question on it. It's just a matter of how much do you want it.
Yeah, and lead with value. At the end of the day, it's all it is. Lead with value.
Lead with value is, man, if we didn't say any other words on this podcast and all we said was one sentence, it's lead with value. Mm-hmm. And I have mentors now that obviously I've elevated that are 9-figure guys and girls. Dude, I always lead with value with them. Always. And it's hard to do that because a person who has $100 million really doesn't want for much, right?
Yeah.
But there's always something that you can find that's simple to lead with value, to have them pay attention to.
Of course.
Yeah, and don't ever pick the brain.
No.
Very bad.
Pick your nose.
Yeah, pick your nose. That's a good one, right?
But yeah, there is so many ways. Like, you can bring a deal. You can bring, like, everybody. I feel that no matter, and I agree with you, at some point, like, it became more difficult to figure it out. But I'm pretty sure there's always going to be something at any level that someone struggle with.
Yes.
At any level.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Look, I'm struggling with stuff right now, right? Yeah. Now, the difference is that you guys think that I have no problems because I've made all this money and blah, 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 and I've scaled. Dude, I still got problems. The only difference is my problems are a lot bigger than yours.
Exactly.
And they come with a lot more zeros. Exactly. So don't think that, like, I wake up every day and, it's fucking rainbow. No, man. Look, I mean, again, I have a routine. I stay focused. Because
so we're going to publish that, and you're going to have people starting to call you.
Do not put my number on it. Listen, I love it, man. I had somebody, he's been my best student to date. He approached me a year ago at an event, and I spoke live in Miami. And he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I don't have money for mentorship. However, I do have this deal under contract in Miami Lakes. That deal ended up netting me $130,000. He made 25. Okay. And there might be a disparity for some of you guys. Oh, wow, he made so much less than you. He had me as a mentor for the next year. And that kid has made well over 400,000 since then. He got out of debt. I mean, he is in a totally different position now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's all because of me. I'm just saying that he led with value. That's the moral of the story.
Of course. It's I talk on this podcast a few times about Hormozy because it's fresh in my mind. I just listened to his podcast on the way here. But his whole motto in his new book about lead generation and everything
I love
is
book.
Give
Until they ask. 100%.
And it's really what it is. Lead with value. It goes back to the same thing.
That's why I started putting out content on social media. I was the first guy that filmed an entire course in English and Spanish for wholesaling. I did it both languages professionally. It's available on my Instagram. It's 100% free. I don't charge for it. I don't care. If you don't do anything with it, great. If you do something with it, great. My plan was just to lead with value. And it wasn't really a Hormozy thing. I had enough friends, like big guys that you would know, that just I saw them do that. And
yeah.
I believe that, look, somebody paid it forward for me. A lot of people paid it forward to me in my career. I would like to pay it forward as well. So I believe it's kind of like giving back. And of course, if an opportunity comes out of it, why not, right? We're in business, but you never know where that next opportunity is going to come
Absolutely. From. And it was exactly my mindset, when I started the REI tribe community and this online platform that we have with the course and everything. At the beginning, I was like, let's sell it as a done sale. Let's monetize on this thing. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to bother people for like asking like $1,000 or like $50 per month or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's just give it for free. 100%. Provide a maximum of value for free. My business is that I'm doing one thing, one method of acquisition, one avatar of customer, one method of fulfillment. The one that don't fill in this bucket, I'm going to provide as much value as I can for free. And, maybe some of them will come back, maybe not, and I'm fine with it either way. So it's exactly what it is.
You're not attached to the outcome, which is great.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not attached to the outcome either.
Yeah.
So again, I have a business that makes me millions a year.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like, I'm good, right? I have rentals. I'm okay. I'm always looking to level up, obviously.
But no, here's what's interesting, and sorry to cut you off, but okay. I feel like at some point in your career, when you reach, those numbers, and money is not really the biggest motivation. I feel at some point, and I don't know if it's the reason why you got into coaching, and I want to talk a little bit about your coaching program, but I feel like it brings you almost more fulfillment in helping others, achieve this first this first step that you already achieved several years ago. It brings almost more fulfillment to do that than getting another deal for yourself.
It does 100%. Specifically with the Latino community. Again, I wanted to show people a poor kid from Miami that got fired with a single mom could make it, could bust his ass and do it in a competitive market. I never left South Florida. I'm not one of these guys who lives in South Florida that does fucking deals in Ocala, okay? Because that's bullshit. We're talking about really doing deals in South Florida, and hundreds of them. That's hard. It's a fucking competitive market. So I wanted to get out there and just be like, look, dude, I'm almost like the antithesis of a lot of my content is like, well, here's another HUD. I guess it's so hard out here, right? Like, it's a joke, but it's true, because I want to like show people like, all right, like, it's clearly can be done, right? Like, I bought a house on Saturday. I bought a deed for $10,000. It's $120K net deal. But what were you doing on a Saturday, right? That's kind of what I look. I'm like, where were you at brunch? I was fucking buying a deal, right? So I'm very lasered in on that. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy, dude, I get so much fulfillment out of watching. I do not work with newbies, for the record. I don't. I work with people that want to scale up, right? Couple deals, a little bit of money in the bank. They have some dry powder. Like you just said, I know my customer avatar very, very well. And I'm not cheap. And I'll be the first to say that. But I believe I'm the best.
And that's really your your area of expertise. Because I mean, no offense, but I feel like if someone wants a real estate 101, there's probably a ton of courses out there that are probably better than yours, because you probably don't want to show someone how to like full list on PropStream and do like all those like basic stuff. And it's important as well, but it's just not your area of expertise. I think your area of expertise is scaling a wholesaling company, or to grow from this first step that you might have to like grow past 7-figure. That's really where you're at. Right?
Correct. Yeah, that's my my zone of genius, I guess you would call it. But yeah, for sure. So for me, man, I enjoy and I get so much fulfillment out of watching people get consistency in their life. People, I also pride myself. One of my superpowers that I get told all the time is I have a way of looking at deals that I can maximize the deal like very few people can. So it's not uncommon that somebody in my program or somebody who comes to me to JV, oh, I think this is a 30K assignment, and I turn it into a 50 or 60K with my team, just because of our disposition process, just because of what we know and the experience.
Yeah, and I think another thing too, like going back to the South Florida market, and the fact that you spent so many years here in South Florida, when so many of us, me included, I had one of the biggest issue that I had in my career is shiny object syndrome.
Me too.
Like, where is this new software? I need to try it. Where is this new thing? Oh, I need to try it. And like, it took me years to really like control that. And I still have those impulses, but now I recognize them early on and I get them out.
Nope.
But I was this guy for so many years, and I think this whole ride of the nationwide wholesaling and virtual wholesaling, oh man, I ride it. Like I was like, that's amazing. That's what I'm going to do, and I go fully on it. It was a mistake, and it took me years to recognize it. We made some good money on it, but now I see that being the guy that stay focused on a small market, if you think about South Florida, it's not statewide, it's not nationwide, it's a small market. It's very valuable on a few key points. Running comps, you know the area pretty well. I'm sure, like you know them by street, by blocks. You're able just by looking at an address to know approximately the outcome.
Yep.
Relationship with your buyers. When you're in a market for a long time, especially now that you're running events and everything, you have very deep relationship with your buyers. I had those relationships with my buyers in Detroit, and there was some deals that some nationwide people were trying to dispose, but I was able to take their deal and wholesale it to the same person they had on their buyer list.
Yep.
Because, and I always say that when the market was at, the top and everybody you just had to like blast to your email list to sell a deal. I was like, when the market is going to slow down, we're going to see who really put the effort in nurturing their buyer list, in building a relationship with those buyers. And a lot of people, they're just like, they hung up when they see some people calling them, but they still pick up the phone. You said it earlier. Most of the people you work with on those JV, they still take your calls today as a priority. Why? Because you've been here for so long.
Yeah.
You provided value, you did deals, you have a reputation, and they know you because you're the local guy doing deals here.
Yeah, and again, like, a lot of people come to me and they're like, hey man, I follow you, or we have a they're not students of mine, right?
Yeah.
But they're like, hey man, we wanted to use your title company and your attorney, but he's not returning the call, or hey, he referred us to you. And he said that he won't work with us unless there's a JV, because he doesn't want to handhold. And my attorney's very raw about it. And I love that about him, because he's very key about, I know my fucking avatar. I don't need fucking more business. And he'll tell you that on the phone.
Yeah.
So people are like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, get out of here. He doesn't need it. And for those of you who know who that is, you know who that is. So anyway, and then they come to me and I'm like, okay. So I pick up the phone and I call him. One ring. It's like, hey, what's up, bro? What can I do for you? I'm like, see? And they're like, what the fuck? I'm like, dude, I put in 6 years and a lot of money in that man's pocket, and a lot of effort and a lot of my word, where I always came through. So yeah, for me to call the title company, or my TC to call the title company, and I have an escrow letter in 2 minutes when it takes you 2 days, not saying that they're slow, at another title company, don't be surprised. but I've paid my fucking invoices.
Yeah.
My attorney knows. He sends me the invoice. That shit's paid in 30 seconds. I don't fucking ask for a discount or, hey, man, can we work on this? Dude, that's the shittiest thing you could do. You look like a clown. You look like a clown. And I'm not talking to anybody specifically, but South Florida is very famous for that. I don't know why. People are so fucking cheap.
Really?
Yeah. I know guys. Listen, man. I know guys and girls that an attorney will solve a problem for them. The deal gets to the closing line, okay? Closing table. When it was dead in the water, they're about to make 40 grand. They get an invoice for $1,300 and they're like, hey, was that really necessary? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Pay your invoice, shut the fuck up, and move on. What's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? It's just like when you see the rehabbers. I get a kick out of it. I get passionate about this, but I love when I see fucking fix and flippers. They buy a house for $350 cash. They put 50 grand into it. They're gonna sell it for $550. They're gonna make 100 G's net. And guess what fucking kind of pictures they put? A dumbass realtor hiding in the mirror with their cell phone in there. And I'm like, you cheap motherfucker. And they're like, well, the photographer is $300. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me.
I saw that so many times. And another thing that I see a lot and like it always like blow my mind is people doing Airbnb. You look at that fucking like horrible picture and I'm like, how long is this picture going to stay on this website? Because it's your business basically. It is
your business. It's marketing.
Fuck, like just hire a guy like for like $300 to do a few nice pictures.
Even novations, man. When we do novations, we send out a photographer.
Yeah.
We pay the $250.
Dude, when I was selling turnkey houses in Detroit, and it was like, we're not talking about expensive houses. We're talking about houses that were selling for 70, 80K, something like that.
Yeah.
I was doing Matterport, you know, the 3D view. Because my buyers, most of them, I realized, were overseas.
Yeah.
They will never see the house. So I wanted to give them something nice, something that, you know, from their living room, they can like go on their computer and visit the house.
Correct.
You need to do this kind of thing. And yeah, it costs money, but what is really like $500 you're going to spend to make an extra probably like 10, 15K just by doing this small thing?
Nothing. And again, you're making the process easier for your prospect to spend money with you.
Sure.
This is why you go to high-end play. Like I love Formula One. I went to Formula One this year, and my girlfriend and I went, and we went with the VIP tickets or whatever, and honestly, it was hot as shit, but you know, the VIP, I paid for the VIP because there was AC, there's tents, there's food, and the caliber of networking is different. Yeah. You walk in there, everybody's got a Richard Mille on. I'm there with my Rolex and Barris, you know, it's big money in Formula One, right? But dude, they serve you the drinks. Yes, sir. No, sir. Hey, yeah, we have private bathrooms. You don't have to wait like a douchebag out there with 1,000 people in a porta potty. No. We have private bathrooms. Like, they sold me on that experience. So I paid $5,000 a ticket. But again, you're making it easier for me to make a purchase. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot to be said about experiences like that.
Yeah, I have a similar experience in airlines company. You know, we have the French company Air France, which is kind of like Delta.
I like how you pronounce that, Air France. You say Air France.
No, I did it the French way. And I used to go back and forth before I moved here 8 years ago. I used to go back and forth between France and Miami all the time. And those are expensive, you know, international flight. And then one day I had a good surprise. I was upgraded to business. And I thought about it a minute, like it was an amazing experience compared to being in economy, you know, for the whole flight, like fucking 12 hours. And at the end I was like, you know what, those people, obviously it's a huge company. They're very smart because what we're thinking, okay, there is this guy that travels alone. He's been doing this flight already 4 or 5 times. Meaning he's probably here for business. He's doing this flight very often. It will be our ideal customer for business. And so they give you just a small taste. See like, hey, you're going to have a real meal. You're going to have a seat that is, you know, way more space, way more comfy.
Agreed.
You're going to have like all those like services and stuff. Fuck, after that, you never want to go back to economy. Like you feel like shit. Like the return flight that I had, my economy ticket that I bought, I felt like shit. The whole flight, I was like, dude, I want to go back there. I don't want to stay.
It's like,
in the
this is
back.
bullshit.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Listen, man, it's really, there's something to be said. Anyone who's ever done business with me, I am not cheap at all. Obviously, I always want to get a good deal like anybody else, right? I'm not an asshole. I'm not going to overpay for things. But, dude, there's something to be said. Pay your bills, pay them on time, spend the money on quality, hire good talent, okay? And Mark Evans says this all the time. Your employees are not an expense, they're an investment. If you hire the right people, it'll save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in headaches, and it'll make you millions. And it took me a while to figure that out. But that is 100% true. I'd much rather have the best systems, the best tools, the best skip tracing, the best training, the best team, the best title company, the best anything. And I'm willing to pay top dollar because I know that it's a professional, not an amateur, on the other end of that transaction handling this specific part of it.
Yeah, that's a very good way to do that. And I think it's one of those things that unfortunately, like, you need to learn, because we all start by being as cheap as possible, trying to save like few cents here and there. But I think it comes with experience. I think you're at this point now in your career where you know that this is a way, because you already did the mistakes, and now you know the right direction. And so that's going back to the coaching program. That's the value if you choose the right coaching program, because we talked about that. Don't get influenced with fake gurus that haven't done real estate in 20 years. But if you find the right mentor and you sign up for the right mentorship, it's basically a shortcut to all this learning experience, all this money that you're going to waste on stupid things, and this kind of feedback. Exactly, like, don't go for the cheapest. Find the best people possible. Find the best tools. Also showing them what the best tools are, because you probably tried them all. So it's really a shortcut to success.
Yeah, look, and the last thing I'll say on this, think about it this way. If you had to go for brain surgery, God forbid, right? You had to go for brain surgery. And you show up. Do you think that you would ask who is the cheapest brain surgeon here? I don't want to overpay. I want the cheapest guy. Or do you think that because it's your fucking brain, you might want to have the best brain surgeon? I don't give a fuck what it costs. Within reason, I want the best guy. Because I know I wouldn't walk in there and be like, listen, give me the guy that sucked at med school. I want the shittiest school that wasn't even an Ivy League school. And I want the cheapest guy. The guy that just cleaned up his tools in the back today. I don't want that shit. But a lot of people operate their business that way.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I want the guy that's fresh out of med school. No, bro, give me the guy with 30 years experience. He might have drilled somebody's head before. You know what I mean? I don't want the new guy. So I'm telling you, I'm being facetious, obviously, but I'm telling you, approach your business that way.
Yeah.
And you'll go a lot further. And I understand when you're new, you can't pay for everything. I get it. You can't ball out. I understand. But when you're able to approach things that way, and trust me, it's not as expensive as you think. It's really not. And expensive is a relative term. Okay? Expensive is very relative.
Yeah.
What's expensive to me might be different for you. And when people are like, oh, I have this friend, he's super fucking cheap, super cheap. And he's just an old friend. And he's like, no, we go to iPick. I love iPick here, right? And it's a nice movie theater.
Yeah.
And I always buy the nice seats that recline.
But you get the dinner experience.
You get the dinner with the blanket, and you get the recline. And my girlfriend and I go there all the time, and I actually enjoy it. And he's always like, oh, dude, let's just go to the $14 seats. And I'm like, I'm not going to say his name, but I'm like, dude, I'll pay for your fucking seat. You want to go sit like a 15-year-old that's on a budget? That's cool. But I'm going to go lay down in my fucking seat, man. Like, that's what I want. And the seat, by the way, is $24. Like, woohoo.
Yeah.
You save $9. Big fucking deal. But my experience is going to be, it's like your business experience. Much better than economy.
Yeah.
And once you see it once, you can't unsee it now.
Of course.
Now you're flying and you're like, fuck, I need to be in minimum business. And then if you get to first class, you're going to be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And now I can't be in business either. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. All right, man. Well, I think we went
Oh yeah,
a
we
little
went
bit
a long time.
a little bit over.
Yeah,
Usually we cap it to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
We're probably almost at 2 hours.
yeah.
Man, first, thank you so much for coming here today. I think
Thank
we
you for having me.
provided a lot of value to the audience. We touch up on many things from business, obviously, but also mindset. I think there's a lot of gold that we drop for the audience. So I appreciate that. Before we wrap up, do you have any like parting words, any last advice that you want to leave to the audience?
Last advice. Honestly, man, it's just get started. Just get started. If you're brand new and you're listening to this, I've been in your shoes before. He's been in your shoes before. Just don't think about so many things. Just block out the noise and just get started. The worst case scenario that can happen to you is that it takes a little bit longer than you expected, and you will succeed if you stick with it. So stop with all the videos and the YouTube and I need to get my ducks in a row and da 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 da. By the time that you get all your ducks in a row, I will have shot 10 shots and maybe hit 3 ducks. I don't really care what they look like. So just apply a little bit more of that in your life, and trust me, it'll be okay. Mess things up very quickly. Learn fast. Lead with value. Partner with people. Don't think of it as like, well, I'm losing on the deal. No, you're gaining a new partnership. You're gaining a new door, and you're gaining time. So if you partner with somebody, now you can go back to doing that activity that made you money in the first place. So that's what I would say, man.
That's a very good point. Last thing, where can people reach out to you?
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of it. It's at Willy Numbers, WILLY, the word numbers. That's me.
I will link everything in the description.
Perfect. Wherever he's going to put the link in the thing, in the video. But
must be here.
Yeah, right there. So, yeah, it's a Willy Numbers, man. You can DM me. I'm on Instagram. Yeah, that's the best place. And WillyNumbers.com.
How about if we have any Spanish speaker, hopefully they can understand us in English. But if they want to get more information about your coaching program in Spanish, where can they find that?
It's the same thing. So I have a link tree on my Instagram. It's in English and Spanish, and then the full course is available for free. It's 100% in Spanish. If you DM me, yo hablo español sin problema. So si me mandan un mensaje, todo igual. Con mucho gusto.
All right, sounds good. And your events, same thing in the link. They can find all your events in Miami.
Yeah. So we're gonna start doing more events now. Justin Colby and I just did an event in Miami, which is pretty cool. We're gonna have another one probably at the end of January now with the holidays coming up. Mm-hmm. But we might do a pop-up one before the end of the year. Maybe we can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We'll keep you guys posted.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Hard and you aiming for the 7 figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver. Success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors. All my entrepreneurs, time for you to check this. Yoann Dorat, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI tribe. REI tribe. Let's go.